thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. You know, Bill didn't ever say anything in church except the Lord's Prayer. And so if you will, thank you for all you've done. And we have some people that are going to share now. My nephew, Todd.
Bill is my uncle and godfather too, and just wanted to share a couple of things, stories, I guess. First was always amazing when Bill and Nancy would come down to Napa and visit. Somebody that had been gone, moved away 60 years later, that everybody still knows who he is. And I'm not sure how that works, but it speaks to his quality of character that you bump into people, you've been gone for 60 years, they still know who you are. And Nancy wanted me to give a little background on the underneath Bill's picture. It says life well lived. A couple days after he passed, I was talking to Nancy and I told her about a book I read I picked up, and it was called A Life Well Lived, and I was reading it, and it was a pretty good book, and I probably should have enjoyed it a little more than I did, but I kept just thinking, man, Bill should have wrote this book. You know, it talked about his life and the guy who took care of his family and worked hard. I just kept thinking, man, Bill should have wrote this book. But the story that I wanted to share today was once when I was just out of high school, one of my cousins and I, we went on a little road trip, and we came up here, and I kind of guess it was a little spurring from Nancy that, yeah, maybe you ought to take a day off from work and take those boys fishing. And so we went down fishing on the door shack, and we got our kokanee, and he pulled into the beach, and we were casting for smallmouth, I think. And we seen Bill was up on the beach, kind of sitting on a rock and daydreaming there, and we didn't know what he was thinking about at the time, but we got back to their house, and right away he went down to the shop, and what we found out later, what he was thinking about, he wasn't just daydreaming. The little diesel motor they'd sent him from Germany, they changed something on it, the emissions, it wasn't picking up oil when the carriage would tip over, and so all day Bill was, thinking it out in his head and planning out how to adapt the engine so it would pick up oil when it tipped over. And sure enough, he went down there and fabricated something and got it working again, and it was up and running. And that was just one example where Bill was doing laps around the rest of us when it came to mental things. Appreciate everybody coming today, and it's nice to meet you. Oh, I'm from Napa too. All right.
Hi, as he said, I'm Linda Tacklow, Nancy's youngest sister, and I just want to thank you too. This is really, really special, which Bill really was. I had known of the Mackey boys before, going down to their welding shop and sitting in the pickup, waiting for my dad. But in 1953, they moved across the road from us because their house had burned and we had a vacant house. So I gained 3 older brothers. And it was all kind of exciting with some of their goings-ons. And then Bill started visiting at our house more than the other 2. And he was awfully good to us too. And I think it was more because he thought of things to get rid of us. But he also was very, as you know, artistic. And I had the most wonderful maps in my geography class. And during that time, he was welding on a Navy ship, I believe it was, and his sweatshirt caught on fire, and he had to pull it off over his head, and he spent a few days in the hospital. And I was just bereft because I didn't know how I was going to get those nice maps in, but he recovered quickly. So they moved in 1953, and Nancy and Bill got married in 1961, and it was a sad day in the Estes family when they moved to Idaho in 62. But I tried to think last night, I have no idea how many trips we made this way, they made that way. And we all, every once in a while, we'll be talking about them, and we all think, we should have kept a diary, because we've had good trips, we've had mediocre trips, we've had really horrible trips. But all have been for the love of family, which was very important to Bill and all of us. A recent happening in his life, he had cataract surgery. And he went for his checkup, and the doctor said that he